Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I'm reviewing one of the books that I just recently read. It's called The4. It's by Scott Galloway, who's a professor in New York. It's all about four biggest companies right now in the world would be Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google. It talks about how they were established, why they're so successful, what their plans are, and if there are any competitors at all in the world that are competing with them, or they're ever going to be replaced, are they good investments or not. Well, so I'm just going to start with chapter 2 because the first chapter is basically talking about these four companies and how essential they are in today's world, and how they have millions and millions of users all around the world. And so I'm just gonna we all know that, so I'm just gonna cut through the chase and start with chapter 2, which is on Amazon. So Galloway talks about how our instincts are so important, and the reason some of these companies are so successful is because they target our instincts. For example, let's talk about Amazon, and then we'll talk about the other companies later when we get to the chapter. For Amazon, it actually resonates with our need to collect items. So as we were hunters and gatherers, we like to collect food and store it. So with shopping, like, we just want to buy a lot of things. We are very materialistic nowadays, especially if you're a woman, you can relate. So you are constantly looking for things to buy. You're constantly stimulated through ads and what you see on social media, and then you go online and search for it. And where do we mostly go nowadays? We go to Amazon. Why? Because we trust Amazon the most, because it has earned our trust by doing quick and reliable delivery. It has a very great customer service, so if you'd like to exchange things, you can. And it basically targets our instinct of collecting and buying material and things. Scott Galloway talks about Jeff Bezos, who is the founder of Amazon, and how he was a very smart person. He was married, and he was actually financial analyst for a hedge fund. So he was actually very smart. He was doing really well in life, and then one day on his drive back from vacation, he thinks of actually starting Amazon. And once he get home, he starts doing that off his home office, so he starts shipping products. Then he starts picking a name for the company. So he thinks he had two options. I think he was thinking about either Amazon or Relentless.com, and he picked Amazon because he wanted Amazon to actually represent the flow of merchandise that goes in and out of the site, and did not happen. It's actually a lot more than whatever he expected, probably. So this strategy of Jeff Bezos was to create the world's biggest store that has the greatest variety of things that you can find at the cheapest price and the fastest delivery to its customers. And he has completely achieved that. It's very hard to start a company like that and actually achieve such a thing. So what he did is that whatever he made out of the company, or out of his sales and what he was doing, he put it back and invested back in the company. How was he actually able to find the money to make this company as great as it is right now? So what he did is that when he took the company public, so he was able to borrow money the cheapest way. He invested most of that money into the company, and he was able to improve his delivery system. That was his main focus, to make sure he delivers faster, smarter, and better. Then he actually now is very much invested in AI, and he is trying to get robots and a lot of machines to work at the warehouse instead of hiring people. Now, we will talk about implications that this will have on the economy, and how one of the biggest companies in the world is actually causing a lot of job loss for Americans, and that's one of the negative outcomes of the company. One of the ways that Amazon is actually able to deliver that fast and that much better. And one of the strategies that Amazon has used to help him do that is actually having retail stores. So he actually invested and bought a few companies before to be able to use this store as its warehouses. Because why? Amazon needs to have warehouses in all different parts of the city, so they're able to deliver faster to people. So if I'm in Toronto and their warehouse, the closest warehouse they have is in Richmond Hill, or maybe in the suburbs, it would take a long time to deliver that item, as opposed to if he had a store right here at Yonge and Eglinton and he was able to deliver the item a lot faster to me. So basically what he has done, he has bought Whole Foods, which in my opinion and Scott Galloway's opinion was one of the smartest things Jeff Bezos could have done. And he has used these stores as warehouses so he can ship to his clients better. Some of Amazon's competitors, one of the biggest ones, are actually Walmart and Google. Why? Because they advertise and they say they have the cheapest stuff. They have all the stuff that Amazon could have on their site. And what they can't do, though, they weren't able to deliver as good as Amazon. They actually bought different companies to help them do that, but they have failed. And Amazon, because they were public and they used that money so well, and a lot of other reasons that Scott Galloway goes over in the book, it's actually helped Amazon to take the market from Walmart. It has extremely affected the Walmart's growth in the past years. And why Google? Because most people now, if you're searching for an item, you go on Amazon and search it. You probably have an Amazon app, or when you go on your computer, you just go to amazon.com or .ca and just search for what you're looking for. But before Amazon was so popular, people used to go to Google, and Google used to use that information from you to find out what you're looking for and what you want. So he actually says on the book that 55% of product searches happen on Amazon and 28% only happen on Google. So obviously the rest is on different websites, maybe Alibaba or other websites, but most of them, 55% is a big number. So that works really well with Amazon. So that's for chapter 1. So for the third chapter, we're going to talk about Apple and why Apple is so successful nowadays. Now, as I mentioned in the previous chapter, is that Scott Galloway talks about how they are actually targeting some of our instincts. So for Apple, it's our instinct to be closer to God. So to be a part of this cool device that looks very cool, that has really cool stores, and also to look better to our potential mates. Basically, he talks about it's much cooler to hold an iPhone, it's sexier because it has a better image. Now, we're going to talk about a little later about how Apple has been able to achieve that, but let's talk about how it was actually created and why it is so successful. So Apple was just a computer, an ordinary computer. It was founded before 1980. So in 1980, there are other computers, there's Microsoft, there's Intel. Intel computers actually get a lot more tractions because you could play a lot of games on it, and a lot of people really liked owning, an Intel computer. Now, Apple started falling down and it wasn't doing really well until in 1984, it came up with a new device that had a cooler look. It was a lot nicer than all the other computers. When you actually turned it on, it actually said hello and it had a friendly voice. So a lot of people liked that, and it kind of started appealing to people as a cooler, more luxury brand. Then Apple started advertising it in movies, and they use that vibe in their advertising to show people that it is really cool to own an Apple device. Then when Apple started being very successful is when they came up with iPhone. So iPhone was revolutionary because it had a touch screen and it looked very cool. It was curvy, so it wasn't boxy anymore. You didn't have to type in all of your messages. So it was very cool. It was very easy to use, which is not actually mentioned by Scott Galloway, but I think because it is a lot more user-friendly than all the other phones, a lot of people like using it. Even, your grandma would like to use and Apple. One of the most important reasons that Apple is so successful is low cost and premium pricing. So it's basically considered a luxury brand because their phones don't cost as much as they're selling it for, so their margins are pretty high. That is why a lot of people like to own an iPhone, because they know it's expensive. They want to have a luxury item. So it compares this brand to Hermes, for example, and it talks about how if Hermes sold a purse for $19.95 in a store, you would never shop from it again. You would never look at the store the same. So the same thing with Apple. They use they use low cost, and they advertise it and sell their products as a more expensive product. So because of their hard, they have made so much money that they have the largest cash on hand when you actually compare it to all the other companies on the stock market. So to give you a perspective, Scott Galloway says that if you combine the GDP of Denmark, the Russian stock market, the market cap of Boeing, Airbus, and Nike, it will add up to how much money Apple has, which is insane. Then he goes on and talks about why he thinks Apple is going to stay around, only because they have a lot of cash on hand. But the most important thing is they have over 500 stores in 18 countries. And they have the nicest stores. When you go there, people that work there are called geniuses, and you just want to go to their store and browse their product and buy something and put it in their cool bag and come out. And he also talks about other companies competing with Apple, just like Samsung and Google. They come up with new phones. Sometimes even they might come up with a better phone than iPhone, but because Apple has created such a romantic relationship with its clients. I'm actually talking as my own experience. I'm very emotional about my Apple phone, and I love using it, and I don't even consider other phones when they come out. Unless if something comes up that it really stands out to me, I would stick with my iPhone. And I feel like most Apple users can relate to that, and they're very loyal to this company. And that is why Scott Galloway thinks that Apple is a very good company, and it will last for a very, very long time, maybe until the 22nd century or further. Then Scott Galloway goes on and he talks about how he is disappointed in what Apple is doing and how the world does not need a better phone. They need better education, and we need a better society. And he thinks that Apple should start investing in a tuition-free university and offer free education, and that's what he thinks that they should take this path. Now comment down below and let me know what you think, and if you agree with Scott Galloway or not, and we're just talking about chapter 4 after. Okay, so for the next chapter, we're going to talk about Facebook. So Facebook is also one of the greatest companies that are out there. The first thing we want to analyze is how Scott Galloway talks about Facebook resonating with one of our instincts. It's actually our need to be closer to people and our social needs. So when you have Facebook, when you go on your Facebook account, well, Facebook has bought Instagram. So if you are younger and you're using Instagram more than Facebook, you know that it makes you feel closer to your friends. It feels like you know a lot more people when you go on social media, as opposed to just how it used to be before, and we used to just talk to our friends and family, and we didn't really keep in touch with like older friends. And then he talks about that feeling when you find like an old friend on Facebook and how it makes you feel. And because of that feeling, we're kind of glued to social media. And these companies use that to advertise and kind of also collect data from us and use that to advertise more products. So in order to put things into perspective and understand how big this company is, first of all, Facebook has bought Instagram and WhatsApp. He talks about it in the book, and he says that it wasn't such a good investment because he paid way too much for it. Well, good for WhatsApp, but it is so big that Instagram has 800 million users daily that are active daily, and Facebook has 3 times as that. And it also talks about how the engagement on Instagram is a lot bigger, like it has 15% more engagement than Facebook. So buying Instagram was definitely a good move on Facebook's part, and it has helped them become even a bigger and better company. So what is Facebook using to their advantage is basically, once you are on Facebook and you have a social media account, they can actually find out what you're interested in, what you click on, what you like, what you search for, and then they sell that data. It's not like somebody sitting there and looking at what you're doing. It's they sell that data, they sell those clicks to companies that are interested in selling items to you. So for example, if I'm looking for a car and I'm going on my laptop and I'm searching to see what a certain car, like a Honda, looks like, then I will like randomly see ads that are related to cars on my Instagram page as an ad. So therefore we know that they're publicly using this, and even though they have been to court because of these situations, Scott Galloway talks about how Facebook has handled that, and it goes a little bit more in details and depth into how they actually get away with these things at the court. So it's actually pretty cool chapter to read. And another reason that Facebook is so big is because, as Mark Zuckerberg talks about it and says that Facebook is going to be a media company, and we want to kind of compare that to a company like Netflix or HBO and see why is Facebook more successful than these companies, and they have more money, they're making more money. And that is because Facebook does not have to spend any money on the content that they show. So for example, if I'm posting pictures and I have millions of followers on Instagram, I provide the content for Facebook, so they don't ever have to spend money, whereas Netflix just spent $8 billion in 2018 for its content. And just to put things in perspective, if you actually combine CBS, ESPN, MTV, Disney, NBC, HBO, and Netflix together, and if they didn't have any cost for their material and for their content, then they would have the same amount of money as Facebook has. So I think that's just kind of puts things into perspective for everyone, which is insane. On top of how much money they're making, from advertising, advertisers become really dependent on them. So before Facebook and Instagram were so popular, there was that made the most money was WPP. It's one of the largest advertising companies in North America. And what happened is that it actually, not only they have lost a lot of their clients and not a lot of people would advertise with them anymore, they actually lose employees. In 2016 they lost 2,000 employees to Facebook and Google, and only 124 of Google and Facebook's employee went to WPP, which is crazy. So Facebook and Google have been successful in creating a good reputation, and a lot of people from a lot of good university and great education backgrounds would love to work for those companies as opposed to other companies as well. So that's about it for Facebook. Let's move on to our last company, which is Google. So on the next chapter, he talks about Google. So Google is our favorite company. It's that one company that we trust the most. Why are they so successful? Which instinct are they relating to? It's our religion and prayer. So before, we used to always pray and ask questions from God and look for answers elsewhere. Nowadays, if you have any questions, if you're wondering why your skin is pale or why you're having relationship problems, you go to Google. You actually search for the questions and you tell them your darkest and deepest secrets, and you trust them. How has Google achieved that? What have they done to earn your trust? Well, the creators in Google, what they have done is that they've made the most simple homepage. And when you go on to search your question, there's nothing there. It's just like a white page with no ads, with nothing that stimulates you. And you can feel safe and kind of type your question and ask Google. So basically, and you can trust that when you're searching for an answer, you're going to get the right answer, not the answer that the person who provided paid the most, right? So it doesn't really care about what's happened, you know, how much money somebody paid for to give you that information. It is the right information. That's why we trust it so much and we go to it so many times. There is 3.5 billion search inquiries on average on every day, daily on Google. Where does Google get its content? Well, it gets it from people, and people who upload the content on their website, news channels like New York Times and Washington Post. Scott Galloway actually goes in a very deep conversation about these news companies and how he got involved with one of them, with another friend of his, and they bought some shares of the company and what happened to it. So he goes in details. It's very interesting to read about his story and his experience. I do recommend that you guys read the book and go through the story and find out more. The reason that Google, we think, is going to be around as this big, huge company that is not just providing search to us, and he goes and talks about what Google is actually doing, what they're investing in information technology, phones and different things. One of the most important things that Google is doing is actually organizing the world's information and data. They actually control it, capture it, and organize it. So it's all in their hands. So whatever information that Google has on there is basically what we're going to have in years to come. So this chapter is done. Now the next chapter is going to be about chapter 6 through 11. So I'm just going to summarize that. One of the very interesting things that Scott Galloway talks about in one of the later chapters is the fact and answers the question about how a company can make it to $1 trillion. As we're speaking right now, they all have made it to $1 trillion. I just checked their market capital online, so they are $1 trillion company. However, so let's talk about any other company that are looking to get there, such as Uber, Alibaba, IBM, and he talks a little bit about AT&T and some other media companies. Number one thing is product differentiation. So how a person is going to actually find your product, how will they buy it, and how will it get delivered? That's very important if you're selling. Number two is that you want to have a visionary capital. What does that mean? That means that, just like Amazon, your CEO or whoever is representing the company should be able to tell your vision, tell your stories to your investors when you're public, and kind of use their money and have them invest in your dreams. Number three is global reach. So it's okay, it's very good that your company is running in the United States, North America, but it's important to reach globally. You want to expand through Europe, Asia, and everywhere you can in order to make more money. And Amazon's already doing that. They're improving a lot in Europe, not so much in Asia, but they're trying. Facebook and Google are global, so they have that going for them. And Uber and all the other companies need to try to expand that, and it takes time, but once they do that, it gives them a big edge. Number four is likability. So if people that are representing your companies are actually likable, for example, nobody really liked Bill Gates. He's my favorite person in the world personally, but not a lot of people like them. The media didn't like. So what happened is that Microsoft couldn't really get to where it could go because of that. And actually, at some point, Bill Gates had to walk out. And it wasn't just because of that, but that played a big role of how people and the government view the company is very important. Uber CEO Travis Kalanick. He was there from 2010 to 2017. He didn't really do well in media. He's actually very super smart, very intelligent person. I've actually seen a few of his interviews online. He's just not able to communicate so well with people, and I feel like a lot of people that are book smart and they have a lot of, they're very smart, like in they can read a book and they can understand, they can start a business and they can become billionaires. However, when people ask them questions, it's very hard to deal with like normal people and talk to them. So most companies kind of hire people that can take care of that for them. But because Clanix actually did all the interviews and he was the face of the company, that caused a lot of issues for him, and a lot of people, a lot of interviewers didn't really like him. Number 5 is vertical integration. So what do we mean by that? Is the fact that you actually control your user's experience from the beginning to the end. For example, Facebook and Amazon have done that exactly. How have they done it? So basically, when you're on Facebook or when you buy something on Amazon, you deal and you are on their website throughout the whole time. They control your user experience, what you see, how you buy, where you click, and what's happening when you're purchasing something from their website or you're advertising on their website. It's all in their hands. But for example, a company like Uber, it doesn't. It has that algorithm, it has the app, it's very easy to use, people love it, but they can't really control the experience that each person has when they sit in someone's car. Where, well, maybe later on when they have self-driving cars, that issue will be taken care of. But then, you know, you're looking at that much time before they can make it to trillions of dollars. Number 6 is AI, is the ability of that software or website to learn from your human's input. So if you create a software that takes input from your users and use it as an algorithm to better their experience the next time, that is the key to a successful business, as Scott Galloway talks about. And that basically helps you grow, and you actually get better and better. And that's what he calls the AI effect. Number 7 is accelerant. That means to attract people, smart people to your company. So for example, Facebook and Google, they have such a big name. So let's say if you're in Stanford or you go to Harvard, those are the places you want to look for, because they have such a good name and they have such big companies, and they have they're very attractive to students that are just recently graduating, that a lot of people find it a really big plus to work for them, which will eventually help you better your business. Number 8, and the last one, is geography. Your location. Are you close to Harvard? Are you close to Stanford? That's where you want to be. A lot of people that live in those areas want to come work for you, want to stay. If let's say if I'm traveling, if I'm gonna transfer from Toronto to Silicon Valley to go to school there, then I like the area, I want to stay there, and I want to work at a company that is close to me. Therefore, I'm going to pick a company that is geographically pleasing to me, and that is a very important fact. One of the last things that I found really interesting that Scott Galloway actually focuses on is what we need to do as individuals to be successful. The first one that he mentions that most companies and people are look for when they hire people is emotional maturity. So how mature you are emotionally. Are you do you get angry? Are you nervous? Are you able to work in teams? How do you handle criticism? How do you do teamwork? How well do you perform in a team? So these are all important factors that they all look at. Number 2, he talks about the important role of women that are coming out and are successful. And he talks about how a higher percentage of valedictorians of schools are women and females. And he believes that women are actually the future. So if you're a woman and watching this, you gotta be motivated and start working even harder towards your dreams. He talks about going to college, and if you can't afford going to a good college, definitely look into certifications that are needed for the career you're looking for. He talks about social media and very active on it, and if you're awesome and you're smart and you're doing so great, tell the world. And that's actually one of the chapters that I read and gave me the motivation to start my YouTube channel. So what you want to do is you want to be very present nowadays, especially a lot of people are on social media and they're looking to get to know you. So the more you share, the more that people get to know you, and when they search your name, it comes up, and it kind of gives them a better view, a better understanding of your personality, which you'd like to share with the world. He talks about when you get a job, how monogamous you want to be at your job. And this is very, very important if you're working for a company. So he tells us to work 3 to 5 years at a company that we like and we feel like we can thrive, and try to learn everything ins and out of the company, try to be the best at what we can do. And then once after that's done, we are looking for opportunities, other opportunities, because we want to improve. He mentions that we don't want to look like to our surroundings that we're actively looking to get a better job or better opportunities. But when something comes up, you want to be very open about it. You want to be able to talk to your managers at the place that you're currently in, tell them that you wanted to improve, and see what they can offer. If they can't offer you anything, all they will actually eventually be able to offer you is their blessing and recommendations for your new job. He also says to stay loyal to people, not companies. So if you're loyal to your manager or your boss, that's a better approach than just being loyal to the company, because if someone can see you and you're loyal to them and they like you, they'll vouch for you, and if the opportunity comes up, they'll put you in charge. And the last thing I want to mention is that he talks about getting rich and how rich is a function of discipline, and how we need to learn the art of investing and make sure we invest in income producing assets. So that will actually help us, that will add up, and that will help us accumulate more money throughout time. And if we're getting an income monthly, that's a lot better than just storing or saving money. All in all, I really enjoyed reading this book. It's a very good read. It's easy to read. You would be quick. You could finish it, like, depends on how much you read. You could finish it in I finished it in like a week, because I read a little bit in the mornings. But yeah, it's a very good read. So I definitely recommend it. Comment down below, like my video. Let me know if there are any other books that you liked and what you think of them.